It's 6 o'clock, so let's just get started. So, as I was saying to everybody, and here's Amanda. Welcome, Amanda. So, I'm going to share the screen. I'm getting so good at this, or maybe not so good at this. Here we are, Buddhism in a nutshell. Let's get cracking. Today is session 3, is the lower scope. So scope really refers to the motivation of the practitioner. This is according to the author. And we're still on the wisdom wing. Remember we were talking about the wisdom wing and the compassion wing last week. So the wisdom wing, we are still on this wisdom wing. And I'm going to also introduce you to Lama Tsongkhapa, who wrote this beautiful prayer called The Foundation of All Good Qualities, which is also one of the things the Education Department wanted us to do, but I think we haven't got time for that as well. So we'll have it's going to be a very superficial overview of the Lam Rim. We'll talk a little bit about Guru devotion and the perfect human rebirth and death and impermanence and refuge and karma. So you can see there's a lot to be covered today. But I also wanted to let you know, this is never, particularly with the Lam Rim, it's never a one-off thing. It's always something you just have to keep going over and over and over and over again. So, it's the same with me. I've been listening to these teachings since 2000 even earlier. Probably 1994 was the first time I listened to that. I had no idea what the teacher was talking about. And then again, I started listening to Venerable Rabina and started to make sense. And then finally last year, or the beginning of this year, I can't remember, last year, I took an exam. I'm doing the basic program with this Geshe in London, wonderful Geshe, and Geshe Namdak. And I finally started to understand a few things, but it's taken a very, very long time. And as you can tell, or maybe I'm just slow, I don't know. But anyway, all I'm saying is if you don't understand it the first time, there's plenty of books out there you can go and read and look over and over and over and over again. And I would recommend this wonderful Geshe Acharya Thupten Lodin. And he lived in Australia for many, many years. And oh gosh, it's probably all upside down and inside out. It's called Meditations on the Path to Enlightenment. He also does a Lam Rim book called Path to Enlightenment. Yangtze Rinpoche has also written a Lam Rim book. So, and Yangtze Rinpoche's book is also quite simple and understand, and he runs Maitripa College. He's the kind of the head of Maitripa College up there in Portland, Oregon. So there are many, many books out there, some of them quite simple, others not. So I would suggest grab a hold of one at some point and just use it as reference. There's also Liberation in the... there you go, Practicing the Path. That's Yangtze Rinpoche's book. Very, very simple, very nice to read, this one. There's also Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. I mean, there's many, but anyway. So let's start with our... And what am I going to do here? I'm going to do here. I'm just going to stop share for a moment. Hello, Jay. Nice to see you. Welcome. And Amanda.
Thank you.
Hi. Okay, so let's just start with settling and motivation and our 9-round breathing. So just bring your body to the same place where your mind is. And if you are sitting at a desk and your feet are down on the ground, make sure they're in a parallel position. A hips width apart. If your feet are on the ground, you can put a couple of cushions underneath your feet. If your leg's in the regular cross-legged position, you can kind of support your knees with a couple of pillows, cushions, and raise your hips, perhaps your sits bones, maybe 2 to 4 inches. That also helps if you've got tight hips and knees, and also helps with the alignment of the spine. The right hand is nestled in the left with the thumbs touching, and the shoulders are aligned over the hips. Now just imagine your spine is a string of pearls of light, stretching from the base all the way up to the crown of the head. You imagine someone is above you or behind you, very gently lengthening your spine. Your head is slightly tipped forward, the eyes are down, looking along the length of the nose. If they were open, they would be at a spot about 2 inches ahead. Welcome, Shayla. Nice to see you. Tip of the tongue is on the roof of the mouth. Relax the jaw. Lips are slightly apart. Let's just bring our awareness to the crown of the head and relax the scalp and the forehead. And bring your attention to the back of the eyes, the nose, the cheeks, that area around your mouth. Your lips can be slightly apart there. And then relax the back of the head, that scalp area, and particularly at the base of the skull, the occipital bone. And just notice when you're relaxing these areas, how your face just keeps on relaxing, letting go, releasing. So relax the ears, the inner ear, the temple, the jaw, back of the tongue. Relax and release any tension in the back of the neck, the shoulders, the shoulder blades, and just allow your shoulder blades to drop down, your angel's wings, put them in their little pockets. And you can relax the upper thoracic area and your throat, chest, belly, limbs, hands, fingers, and feet and toes. And just bring the mind to the breath, noticing the sensation of the air as you're inhaling and exhaling. It's slightly warmer as you're exhaling. And you feel this air flowing in through the outside of your nostrils. If there are any sounds in your environment, just allow those sounds to be there. And just notice what distracts your mind in terms of sound. What are you attracted to? What do you try to push away? So try not to engage with those sounds. Then allow those sounds to fade into the background. Bring your attention to your thoughts and just notice. Try and put some space in between your thoughts. And try not to engage with any commentary. Try not to judge yourself, criticize. However you've shown up today is just perfectly fine. So as I've been saying, as we've been thinking, just imagine this river of mental moments, and you're sitting on the bank, watching with curiosity, interest, objectivity. And while you're on this riverbank, you're free from the river. So bring the mind to the breath. And then let's just think about all the people of our life, our loved ones, your friends, those for whom you care deeply, those for whom you have positive and constructive relationships, your spouses, lovers, children, relatives, colleagues, and dear friends. Now imagine all those people with whom you have some difficulty, those people who are irritating, people for whom you have anger, or those who you are angry with. And those people who are angry with you. So whoever is causing a problem for you. And these are people in your life you'd like to avoid or who you reject. And finally imagine all the strangers in your life, the person in front of you in the queue, in the supermarket, the bank teller, someone in the car next to you at the traffic light. And these people pass through our lives every day, fleetingly, but we don't think about them. We don't even know their names. And for the most part, we treat them with disregard. So you can imagine that all these people of your life, your friends, your enemies and your strangers surrounding you, doing this course with you, reflecting, studying, meditating with you. And then again, bring to mind what brought you to this course. Why do you want to do it? What are your aspirations regarding doing this course? What do you want to take away with you? What are your goals? And what are you hoping to learn and to find? And perhaps the fulfillment of these goals might affect the people around you. Then try to expand your aspirations to include not only your own welfare and benefit, but the benefit of all those people of your life. And beginning to think beyond our own wishes and desires and expanding our hearts to include others begins the process of transformation that is at the heart of the Mahayana tradition. So decide, make a strong determination to get the most benefit from this course, to achieve your goals for yourself and for all the people of your life. So let's just, as we move into our 9-round breathing, so I'll just run through very briefly. So you're breathing in, first of all, through the right nostril, blissful, radiant, white light. Pausing at the top of the breath. You can move your finger over and close the right nostril, breathe out through the left. All your attachment, unhealthy desire, grasping, neediness, wanting, not feeling enough, and let this leave you as thick black yucky smoke, and it disappears into space, not one atom left. Then now breathe in through the left nostril, blissful, radiant, white light, and pause at the top of the breath, and then breathe out through the right nostril, all your anger, depression, disappointments, grudges, bitterness, jealousy. Lam Rim calls that jealousness, which I find is kind of sweet. And that disappears as thick black yucky smoke. And you do that 3 times. So you do attachment 3 times, anger 3 times, and now we move to ignorance. You breathe in through both nostrils, blissful, radiant, white light, pausing at the top of the breath, and breathe out all your ignorance. This is, at a very basic level, it's not misunderstanding things, not knowing things, not understanding things. In terms of practicing this particular path, it's about not understanding the way things really exist, not understanding cause and effect, karma. So you breathe that out 3 times. So we do 3 sets of 3. This should take us about 5 minutes. And I'm putting myself on mute, Lou, so if I start talking and you can't hear me, please let me know. And when you finish, just bring your mind back to the breath. If you're not quite finished yet, don't rush. And just notice and feel. Has anything changed since the time you started this meditation? And now? If nothing's changed, that's okay too. So just before we start the meditation on Shakyamuni Buddha, I'll do a wee refuge prayer. Go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of meditating and of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. So let's just bring back to mind all those people of our life. And also just remember, at any time in our life, these people in these different groups can change places. The friend, the enemy, and the stranger can change place in our life at any time. So it's very, very good to be mindful when we're in a rage about the person we don't like. Perhaps they could be our best friend someday. And to take care of those constructive relationships in our life that we find are so precious, to not take them for granted. And they're all deserving of our equal concern, because they all have this unbelievable wish to be free from suffering, and they're constantly, just like us, running into problems, and have this wish to be happy, and obviously just running against this inability to obtain it all the time. So I think in order to help all beings and lead them to the perfect happiness of enlightenment, I myself must attain enlightenment. And for this purpose, I shall practice this meditation. So every aspect of this visualization is made of light. It's transparent, intangible, and radiant. And at the level of your forehead, and between 6 and 8 feet away, is a large golden throne adorned with jewels and supported at each of its corners by a pair of snow lions. And these animals in reality are manifestations of bodhisattvas and have white fur and a green mane and tail. And here is Shakyamuni Buddha up on the screen if you need a visual. They're also made of light. And on the flat surface of the throne is a seat consisting of a large open lotus and 2 radiant discs representing the sun and the moon. And they're on top of each other, and these 3 objects symbolize the 3 principal realizations of the path to enlightenment: the lotus, renunciation; the sun, emptiness; and the moon, bodhicitta. And seated upon these is Shakyamuni Buddha, who has attained these realizations, and he is the embodiment of all enlightened beings. You can also imagine, if you wish, it makes it a little bit more personal. If you have a teacher, you can imagine this is the manifestation of the mind of your Lama, your Guru, whoever is leading you on the spiritual path, and just appearing there for the benefit, in this form, this Buddha form, for your benefit. And Shakyamuni Buddha's body is of golden light, and he's wearing the saffron robes of a monk. And these robes do not actually touch his body, but they're floating about an inch above it. He's seated in the full Vajra, or full lotus posture, with each foot over the opposite thigh. The palm of his right hand is resting on his right knee. The fingers are touching the moon cushion, signifying his great control. His left hand rests in his lap in the meditation pose, holding a bowl filled with the nectar, and this is the medicine for curing all of our disturbing states of mind and other hindrances. And Buddha's face is very beautiful. His smiling, compassionate gaze is directed at you and simultaneously all other living beings, including the people of your life. He has no judgmental or critical thoughts towards you. He's accepting you exactly as you are. And as I said, however you have turned up this evening, or this morning, if you're in Australia, it's perfectly fine. His eyes are long and narrow, his lips are cherry red, and he has his long earlobes. His hair is blue-black, and each hair is individually curled to the right. Every feature of his appearance represents an attribute of this holy mind. And rays of light emanate from every pore of Buddha's pure body and reach every corner of the universe. And these rays are actually composed of countless tiny, tiny Buddhas, some going out to help living beings, the others dissolving back into his body, having finished their work. So it's a very active, dynamic image in front of you. Very brilliant, very bright. So really try and feel the living presence of this Buddha in front of you, this holy being in front of you. And take some inspiration from it. And also really recognize his willingness to help you, really wants to help you, and has this ability to do so. So many people want to help, but they don't quite have the skill. But Buddha has the skill. You can imagine your quest to receive all his blessings and to become free from all your problems and negative energy and misconceptions. Your request is accepted, and a stream of purifying white light, which is in the nature of the enlightened mind, flows from Buddha's heart, enters your body through the crown of your head. And it's the same as when you walk into a dark room and you switch on a light. That light instantly dispels the darkness. So same here. As soon as the light from Buddha's heart touches your heart, it instantly dispels all the negative energy in your mind. So this light flows into you, filling your body completely. And just imagine this happening as we recite the Buddha's mantra. Om Tayadam Muni Muni Mahamunaye Soha Tayadam Muni Muni Mahamunaye Soha Tayadam Muni Muni Mahamunaye Soha. And really feel that all your negative energy, all your problems and subtle obscurations have been completely purified, and your body feels blissful and light. And we'll just focus on this for a moment or two. Now imagine a stream of golden light this time descends from Buddha's heart and flows into your body through the crown of your head. And the essence of this light is the excellent qualities of his pure body, speech and mind. So, as I said last week, he can transform his body into different forms, animate and inanimate, to help living beings according to their individual needs and their particular states of mind. And with his speech, he can communicate different aspects of the Dharma simultaneously to beings of various different levels of development and be understood by them in their respective languages and their dialects. And this omniscient mind sees very clearly every atom of existence, past, present, and future. And he knows the thoughts of every living being. So this is unbelievable awareness. It's almost like we couldn't even imagine having that level of awareness without being completely confused, overwhelmed. And imagine, though, these infinite good qualities flow into every part of your body, and concentrate on this blissful experience again while we recite the mantra. Untitled Muni Muni Ma Munaye Soha Tibetan Muni Muni Ma Munaye Soha Tibetan Muni Muni Ma Munaye Soha. And imagine you've really actually received these infinite excellent qualities of Buddha's body, speech and mind. And your body feels light and blissful. And now imagine that the 8 snow lions absorb into the throne into the lotus, and the lotus into the sun and the moon, and they in turn absorb into the Buddha, who now comes to the space above the crown of your head, facing the same direction as you. He's about 1 inch or 2 above the crown of your head. And now he just kind of dissolves into you, just melts into you and absorbs into your body. And this ordinary sense of I that we're walking around with every day, full of faults and insecurities and regret and all this business, disappear completely. And in an instant, you become one with the Buddha's blissful, omniscient mind in the aspect of vast, empty space. So just for a moment, expand your mind. Now imagine from this empty place there appear in the place where you are sitting the throne, the lotus, the sun and the moon, and you're sitting upon these yourself as the Buddha. Just imagine that. And everything is in the nature of light, just exactly as you had visualized in front of you earlier. And really try and identify with Buddha's enlightened wisdom and compassion instead of our usual incorrect self-view. So try and feel brilliant and kind and compassionate and worthy. And you have value. And this is who you really are and who you have always been. And now surrounding you in every direction and filling all of space are all living beings. And generate love and compassion for them by recalling that they too want to have happiness and don't want to suffer. And now that you're enlightened, you can help them. So at your heart are a lotus and a moon, and standing upright around the circumference of the moon, reading clockwise, are the syllable of the mantra Tayata Om Muni Muni Maha Munaye Svaha. The seed syllable Mum stands at the moon's center. And imagine that rays of light, and this is actually your wisdom and your compassion, emanate from every letter and spread in all directions. Just imagine this. And they reach the countless sentient beings surrounding you and completely purify them of all their obscurations and delusions and fill them with inspiration and strength as you recite the mantra. Om Tayada Om Muni Muni Ma Munaye Soha Tayada Om Muni Muni Ma Munaye Soha Tayada Om Muni Muni Ma Munaye Soha. Now think, I have led all sentient beings to enlightenment, thus fulfilling my intention for doing this meditation, and imagine everyone around you is now in the form of Buddha and experiencing complete bliss. So this kind of meditation and this practice is known as bringing the future result into the present path. And it's a powerful cause for our own enlightenment. It helps us to develop conviction in our innate perfection, our Buddha potential. And what we've just done in meditation, we will definitely achieve one day. So I wanted to introduce you to Lama Tsongkhapa, and some of you may recognize this statue, and there's our dear Venerable Rabina teaching at Kopan Monastery. And you can see from, I wanted to show her because you can see how large that statue is in relation to Venerable Rabina, who's about 4'2", or 3 or 4, I'm not sure. But interesting, Lama Zopa Rinpoche decided to put this statue in the place where normally there would be a Shakyamuni Buddha. So at Kopan, Shakyamuni Buddha is actually off to the right of this statue, so to the left of the picture. And he's huge. So Lama Tsongkhapa, I'm going to give you a brief introduction to him. So he was born around, well, they say on 357. He was born in Tibet, and he lived until 1357, he lived until 1419, and he was born in eastern Tibet in a place called Onion Valley, or Songkha in Tibetan. And he said he was kind of a genius child. He was very prodigious. And a secret biography suggested that from the age of 7, he was able to perceive deities such as Manjushri and great lineage holders such as Lama Atisha, and he received teachings and advice from them whenever he wished. This is what they say, this is what the biographies say. So he took ordination at the age of 7 from his Lama, Chorje Dundrup Rinchen, and received the ordination name Losang Drakpa. And he became a great scholar and a meditator, and he's the founder of the Gelug tradition. So this is the tradition that we're studying in with Thupten Nobu Ling and Lama Zopa Rinpoche and the FPMT. And Tsongkhapa had a vision where Manjushri told him he should compose a commentary to Atisha's Lamp on the Path to Enlightenment. And we were introduced to Atisha last week. And Atisha's Lamp on the Path to Enlightenment was only 6 pages long. However, Tsongkhapa managed to compose several commentaries on this text, and he gave many, many teachings to thousands of students. And he was well known for his pure morality and his outside appearance of being a pure monk, and his internally being realized, a very realized highest yogic tantric practitioner in the tradition of Naropa and Tilopa. And Naropa and Tilopa have caves actually in Kathmandu in Nepal next to Pushnapat, which is Pashupatinat, which is the kind of the area where it's the Ghats, basically, where when you die you get burned there. So there's some Naropa, and it has a cave there. And Tilopa had caves there. They're actually kind of secret caves, and it's very difficult to actually get access to them. People won't let you in, but they are there. So it's kind of interesting. I think Venerable Sarah Thresher went to visit there. She was able to get in. He practiced this way, Lama Tsongkhapa practiced this way, sort of very much like Lama Zopa Rinpoche, because he realized it was difficult for ordinary people to develop devotion to a teacher who was outwardly showing kind of like wild behavior, such as drinking and smoking. And he emphasized the teachings of Sutra and Tantra must be practiced together and aid each other rather than being contradictory. So we'll come to this a little bit later. And Lama Tsongkhapa, towards the end of his life, went into a long retreat, and at the advice of Manjushri. And he told his students who had asked him to stay, he had taught them the graduated path to enlightenment, and that would be his replacement. So he left them this Lam Rim as his replacement. His final teaching was that we should practice the graduated path continuously and steadily, whether we are experiencing good or bad circumstances. So I think this is always the advice you get from the teachers, is just steady. Every day do something, which is why this book, the Lam Rim Year, is so wonderful. It's like each day is like a page. It doesn't take you more than a couple of... We're going to do one in a minute. So I'm just going to give you an idea of how long it takes to do. It's like 3 minutes per chapter, per day. So we're first starting, this is an overview of the Lam Rim, and we'll start by looking at the 3 principal aspects of the path to enlightenment. First of this is renunciation. So I'm going to read you, so you get an experience of what renunciation is. I'm going to read you this chapter from Lama Yeshe. This is from the Lam Rim Year, Making Life Deep, Meaningful Day by Day. This is day 239. Lama Yeshe says, and you can meditate if you like. This will be an analytical meditation. So today we have done concentration meditation, we've done a breathing meditation, and we've done a visualization meditation. And now this is an analytical meditation. So if you like, you can just settle yourselves back into meditation and just think as I'm reading. Lama Yeshe says, if we want to be happy, we have to check the way we lead our life. So liberation is not only for religious people. If we understand our own situation, our own lifestyle, even if we're non-religious, we can see our own confusion, our own dissatisfaction. We can see that what we consider to be happiness, that which causes attachment to arise, doesn't truly give us pleasure. We can also see how our experiences of misery make it easy to get angry, and our neutral experiences make us ignorant and dull. This is samsara. Our entire life becomes samsara. It's not just that we're alive, therefore we're in samsara. No, it's linked to our ignorant, grasping, dull attitude. That's what makes our life samsara. And its name, cyclic existence, suggests it's a circle, and we keep going around and around without end. Meditation can release us from all this repeated emotional self-sensitivity. With release, our life becomes more stable. We have fewer expectations because we understand the nature of things, that the pleasure they give is limited. If I expect my clothes to give me everlasting pleasure, I'm going to be disappointed. In the same way, human beings cannot give each other everlasting pleasure. A Himalayan guerrilla monk like me cannot give you everlasting pleasure. And it's the same thing with all the other people in relationships on earth. It's not possible for one to give everlasting pleasure to the other. Each person has to make an individual effort to develop their own mind. Lord Buddha's teachings are so simple. We just have to check into our own life. Investigating how we live our life is the first step to renunciation. Once we have developed renunciation of samsara, we're on the path to liberation. Knowledge of how samsara works is itself renunciation. So that's a little bit of a different view to how we normally view or think of renunciation. We think of as giving up things. But Lama Yeshe was very much of the idea that we renounce suffering and we renounce harming ourselves, and we understand that samsara is not going to give us pleasure. It's not about giving all my things away or going into retreat and starving myself. That's not really correct renunciation, because if you're kind of depriving yourself of something and your mind is going crazy because of it, that's not very helpful. So next, bodhicitta, and I'm sorry to rush us all through this. So I'd like to just, Venerable Rabina said about bodhicitta, and I really love this: the accomplishment of renunciation is the sound basis for the development of love, compassion, and eventually bodhicitta, the second principal aspect of the path. Without being fed up with my own suffering, renunciation, based on the understanding of why I'm suffering, my past karma and delusions, I cannot develop empathy for the suffering of others, compassion, based on the understanding of why they are suffering, their past karma and delusions. The culmination of this scope of practice, the most sublime level of compassion, bodhicitta, the spontaneous and heartfelt wish to become a Buddha as quickly as possible, because the suffering of others is unbearable, knowing that only as a Buddha can one be effective in eliminating the suffering of others. And bodhicitta comes from the development of great compassion. Not only is the suffering of others unbearable, but I have a responsibility to remove it. Just the same way a mother knows that her responsibility is to relieve the suffering of her children. And His Holiness calls this great compassion, universal responsibility. Great compassion comes after compassion. Compassion comes after love, which is the wish for others to be happy. So you may have heard, often in the Theravada tradition, they say, may you be happy. May you be free from suffering. So this is the first step. And Geshe Jumpa Tetchok, who actually, Khenso Rinpoche, Geshe Jumpa Tetchok, he's a Lama who's passed away now, pointed out that depending upon the person, sometimes compassion is developed before love. So the next is emptiness. So you've all heard this word. Emptiness is very hard to realize. It's just a very, very slow process of understanding. But it is where we deconstruct our fantasies about the world and others and discover an absence of a fantasy self that we've created around ourselves. And His Holiness says that it's not that we find the ego and throw it out. It was never there in the first place. And I find it easier when I'm thinking about emptiness to sort of think about the emptiness of phenomena first, is that we can easily see, things don't exist in this kind of fixed way. We can easily see how things are interrelated, how there's cause and effect, and how things appear differently according to what mood we're in, our height, our culture, our species even. So for example, dogs see colours differently than we do. So it's just enough to start thinking that perhaps things do not exist in the way we think they do. And so we've been doing this every night in our Vajrasattva meditation. So just chipping away slowly, slowly, slowly. So there's 3 scopes in the Lam Rim. The first scope, and these 3 scopes are sort of based on the levels of practice and on the motivation of the practitioner. So again, remember we talked about the bird needing 2 wings last week. The wisdom wing, that includes the lower scope and the middling scope. And this is kind of, there's also two preliminaries before these scopes, and there is mind and guru devotion. So we've already talked a little bit about mind, and we'll look at guru devotion in shortly. And so lower scope is usually regarded as a junior school. And this is where we look at a way to escape suffering of the three lower realms, the hell realms, the spirit realms, and the animal realms. We understand about death and impermanence, refuge and karma. And these are the lower. Then the compassion wing is the kind of the higher scope, is university. So this is kind of junior school and senior school. And then there's university here, the higher scope. Middle scope, senior school, is identifying the mind aspiring to attain liberation from samsara. So this is where you start to get an idea that you might like to escape from samsara. And it's sort of, this is where they bring in the 12 links. You may have heard of those. We're not going into those here. And then, so these paths of the lower and the middling scope lead to renunciation. And they are also the foundation for the practice of this third scope, which is where we get to the compassion wing, the higher scope. Oh, haven't got there yet. Never mind. And so the compassion wing is the explanation of the path of the great scope, and it contains the special teachings specific to the practice of Mahayana tradition. And it's the main practice of the greater vehicle, or Mahayana Buddhism. So there's 4 features of the Lam Rim teachings. There are no contradictions in Buddha's teachings. The Hinayana and Mahayana divisions, sometimes people will try and say one's better than the other, but each provides specific benefit for individuals at different stages in their development. And all teachings are to be taken as sound advice for your own practice. And they're just all methods, different ways according to your mind and how you like to learn and where you are in your own life and how much time you have. And they're methods for you to reach enlightenment. So it's everybody's different, as we know. Everyone likes, like Michael was saying, he likes chips instead of sweets. So we're all different. We all have different kind of things that we're good at, different practices we're attracted to. Some people love to do water bowls. Other people love to study. It just depends on you. And we can easily see the main points of the Buddha's teachings. So, we can understand what Buddha was thinking when he was teaching. So there were apparently 84,000 collections of Buddha's teachings and many, many more commentaries. But the Buddha taught 3 scopes for the different minds and capacities of the different beings. And for some with a lesser intelligence, it's not so easy to grasp the higher path straight away. So by practicing and understanding the lower path first, they can gradually practice the higher paths. And the 4th one is it helps you to avoid favouring or rejecting one set of teachings over another. And this is really important. His Holiness has been emphasising this, to avoid sectarianism. So if we criticise one school, we can create the heavy negative karma of abandoning the Dharma. So to say, for example, the Pali tradition or the Hinayana or the Theravada tradition is inferior, or the Vajrayana tradition is too exotic or too complicated, that kind of creates some kind of negative seed in our mind. So by practicing the path just very gradually, very steadily, and through the different levels, we can avoid this fault. So here we come, the precious human rebirth. No. Oh, Guru devotion. I missed it. So why do we need a teacher? You know this Buddhism is all about the mind. And we've always had teachers teaching us things. We've never learned anything by ourselves. We even learned how to tie our shoelaces. Someone taught us that. I think our kindy teacher, she had these kind of like cardboard cutout shoes with laces on them, and that's how we learned to tie our shoes. I think my dad also taught me how to do that. But we need a teacher. If you are going to, you can't do you need someone who's gone before you, who knows this stuff, who's kind of done it ahead of you. I mean, you don't just go practicing yoga on your own. I did that during the pandemic. I injured myself. You know, I mean, so now I had to kind of go backwards. And now I have a very good yoga teacher, a very kind and careful yoga teacher. But it's taken me a while to get back on track. So you need a teacher. And you need a teacher that you're going to hand your mind to this person to help you become enlightened. You want to make sure you have a good one. So you need to find a qualified teacher. And there's several, it tells you quite clearly in the Lam Rim how to find a qualified teacher and how to check that they're qualified. But we won't go into that today. But it's definitely, there's a guide there. And then you devote yourself appropriately, not with attachment or grasping, or not asking them for help and then not doing what they say. And they say sort of particularly with Lama Zopa Rinpoche, if you ask Rinpoche for advice, very often he'll give you a life practice. So he'll give you a lot of practices. He's renowned for giving you 400,000 of this and 100,000 of that. And so you have to be kind of careful. So if you don't have the time to do certain things, it's best not to ask. So you devote yourself appropriately, you be respectful, you attend teachings, you serve them and their students. There's many ways to devote yourself appropriately. But devoting yourself with attachment and grasping is not devoting yourself appropriately. And where are we now? We're at the precious human rebirth now. How's everyone doing? Good? Okay. Good-o. Precious human rebirth. Okay, what's this? They say meditating on the precious human rebirth is a really good antidote to depression. You'll see why in a minute. So we need to sort of recognize our good fortune. And it's very easy to recognize your good fortune when you go to places like Nepal and India and you see how difficult various people's lives are. They don't have enough water, they don't have education, they don't often have enough warm clothes to wear. Sometimes these young men who are taking your gear up the mountains only have flip-flops on their feet and they're exhausted and tired. They don't have time to sit down and meditate. So anyway, we'll get into this. So first of all, we need to sort of just accept, hey, we're kind of lucky to have this life we have. We can go down to the shops and buy whatever it is we want pretty much. We can order it on Amazon. They say we have 8 freedoms. And 4 of these freedoms are freedoms from being in a non-human state, in a rebirth. And 4 of them relate to having restrictions to a spiritual practice. There are 10 endowments. 5 of these are personal or internal endowments, and 5 are external endowments. So let's look at the 8 freedoms. So 4 freedoms from non-human states, and freedom from birth in the hell realms. And there are many hell realms, and Lama Zopa Rinpoche, if you ever do any kind of Lam Rim with Rinpoche, he will talk for hours and hours on the hell realms, to the point where people get completely freaked out. But so they do say this is a possibility. So you haven't been born there. And so when you're in one of these hell realms, whether it's a hell realm where you're too hot or too cold, you can't think about anything except how uncomfortable you are. It's really, and it's so impossible. The pain is so intense. And if anybody's ever had any kind of extreme pain or been in extreme cold or extreme heat, all you want to do is relieve that pain. So these beings in these hell realms are experiencing extremes of hot and cold and misery. You're being free from being born in a hungry spirit realm. So they talk about pretas, and these are kind of beings who have these great big bloated stomachs and these tiny skinny necks and little mouths, and anything that they eat burns their throat, so they're starving hungry, but they can't actually eat anything or digest anything. And at Rinpoche's house, we do a lot of practices at nighttime, we do a practice for the pretas. And, we burn some flour and some kind of special blessed substances, and we say a prayer, and this is to sort of pacify the spirits, and then, the preta beings. And then sometimes, those sounds a little bit wacky, but sometimes you can always sense that they're there. It's very interesting. And then you offer them some dharma, and then you tell them to go back to their place. It's really nice. You kind of invite them. They have a little you offer them some food, you give them a little practice, and then you send them home. So it's very sweet. We do that every night at Rinpoche's house. And I sort of noticed one time I was in India, and it was 2012. I came back and I went to Raleigh to help Venerable Rabina and all our Liberation Prison Project staff. We were doing a fundraiser for Liberation Prison Project, and I had picked up some stomach bug, and I was so hungry because the food in India was not really fantastic. And I could see all this lovely food, apples and oranges and this and carrots. I couldn't eat any of it because I was too sick. It would just come in one end and go out the other. So I really got a sense of what it would be like to be in one of these realms. And then there's these animal realms. We're free from being born in an animal realm. And the animals, all they're pretty much thinking about is finding food or avoid being eaten. And so when you're busy either trying to find food or avoid being eaten, you don't have time to practice Dharma. They also don't have the intelligence to read and write and comprehend. And even your pets that have been very well taken care of still don't have this capacity. Even though some of our pets, people think that they are kind of highly spiritual animals, and maybe they are. And if anyone's seen that bunny, this woman, she's a speech therapist. She's trained her dog to communicate with buttons. So people may have seen that on Instagram, but it's still very, very limited, their mind. It's not quite enough to be able to practice the Dharma, practice morality. And you're free from being born as a long life God. And some of these gods live for millions and millions of years, and they experience great pleasure. And you can imagine the God realms like those Hollywood realms, it's a completely different world for us. And if anybody saw Bling Empire on Netflix, check it out. It's unbelievable, the wealth that these people have. And they have a lot of pleasure and a lot of partying, and there's a lot of jealousy, and there's no time for practicing a spiritual path because they're so busy with their huge homes and their this and their that. So there's 8 freedoms. 4 of these are restrictions to a spiritual practice. So freedom from being born at a time where the Buddha has not come. So we're actually born in an era where, even though it was 2,500 years ago, his teachings are still alive. And we're free from being born in a place where there is no Dharma. There's some countries in this world, like Turkey, where it's illegal to practice Buddhism. So sometimes we will see them at Kopan, people from Turkey who would love to set up a center at home, but they can't do it. Terrible fear. And we're free from being born with disabilities. So, if you are in a lot of pain, if you are deaf, if you have difficulty seeing, it's extremely difficult to practice. You can, because now there's more and more accessibility. But, pretty much everyone here is pretty okay, and it makes it easier. It's much more challenging when you're not when you're not feeling very well and you want to meditate. It doesn't really happen easily. And this is freedom from holding wrong views. It's kind of a bit like disinformation. We hear a lot about that word in the press, but it really means not understanding and denying karma, cause and effect, and not really getting the connection between a negative action and its suffering result. or a positive action and its positive result. There's 10 endowments. I like these a little bit better because it's more positive. So we have 5 internal endowments, or 5 personal endowments, and 1, we're born as a human. We're born in a place where the Buddha's teachings have been established. So we're born on this earth, and the Buddha's teachings are now quite widely established. We've got a well-functioning body and mind. And we haven't created the 5 extreme negative karmas of killing one's mother, killing one's father, killing an arhat, injuring the body of a Buddha, causing a division amongst a Buddhist community. And this also includes not having caused others to commit these crimes. So, most people don't kill, but sometimes with our speech, this one here can happen, causing a division within a Buddhist community. So we have to be very, very careful with how we talk. And having faith in the 3 baskets. We talked about the 3 baskets last week. The baskets being the vehicle that are holding those teachings. The Vinaya, the Sutra, and the Abhidhamma sets of teachings. We just have to kind of believe that they are valid. And we've got some external endowments. And we're being born in a period where Buddha has appeared. Being born at a time where the Buddha or his disciples have given teachings. And being born at a time where the Dharma is flourishing and is being practiced. So we're kind of lucky, that we can actually access so much on Zoom now. It's even more than before, when we had to travel to go to listen to teachings. And being born at a time where we're able to meet qualified teachers and sincere followers of Buddhism. And actually it's easy for us to get access to these people, again through Zoom, but also we can fly somewhere, and we can fly to Dharamsala and listen to His Holiness. We can fly to Nepal and listen to Lama Zopa Rinpoche. You can fly to wherever Venerable Rabina is, or Geshe-la, or Gendon. We're being born at a time where people have love for one another and support practitioners. And here they're talking about sponsors of the Dharma. And the Asian community are generally incredibly generous to Dharma practitioners. So they have a lot of sincerity there. Does anyone want to stop and have a wee drink? I don't know what time it is. 7:07. We're doing quite well. Are you coping with all this information? Managing okay? Good. I'm just going to take a wee drink. Okay. We're on recognizing our good fortune. So are we all feeling fortunate? Yeah. Okay. Now we're contemplating the value of our life. So they talk about this. We have temporary value. So for this life at least, we have conditions in which we can practice morality. We can practice virtue. We can practice Dharma. We can do water bowls. We have a fully functioning body, and we have a little bit of money. And the ultimate value is that it's possible to attain enlightenment with the right conditions in one lifetime. So that's the main deal. That's what we're looking for. And value in every instant. So each moment of this rebirth we can make meaningful if we wish. So for example, Lama Zopa Rinpoche has us at Rinpoche's house doing practices all the time. I mean, when you're working there, your whole life is filled with instant by instant doing some kind of virtuous activity or another. And Rinpoche himself never stops practicing. Is either reciting mantras or reciting sutras or doing something for some other person. So for a lot of us, we're just kind of like, well, my practice time is here, and then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make dinner. But you know, what they say is, while you're making dinner, you can recite mantras. While you're washing your face, you can recite mantras. While you're doing the watering, you can recite mantras. So you can actually, instant by instant, second by second, you can create merit and you can create virtue by doing all the practices. It's all there for us to do. It's just whether we have the mind or we can be bothered to do it. Rinpoche never takes a break. He doesn't sleep either. So maybe a little bit more now. So then we also have to think about how difficult this life, this kind of precious life, is to obtain. So they talk about causes. So it's very easy to create the causes for lower rebirths, particularly with things like killing, because a lot of people have to kill in order to sustain their own life, or as their job. You know, they're fishermen or they work in an abattoir. So we're born in a life where we don't have to engage in negativities to survive. And this is kind of amazing and rare. They have another heading here called analogy. So Buddha wrote this sutra called the Sutra Containing the Excellent. So here we go. This is the analogy. If there was a huge, deep ocean as big as this entire world with a golden yolk floating on its surface, and at the bottom there were a crippled, blind turtle who surfaced once every 100 years, how often would that turtle raise its head through that yolk? Such an event would be extremely rare, but Buddha said not as rare as gaining the precious human rebirth of leisure and fortune. And numbers. So think about how many sentient beings there are all around us. How many fish are in the ocean? How many humans on this earth? How many insects? How many birds? I mean, if you go to India in the wet season, it's like Jurassic Park. I mean, actually no, Raleigh is like Jurassic Park in the summer. I mean, when I first got to the East Coast, I didn't understand why everybody's porches were enclosed. I'm like, what's this about? And then, you know, I had a nice spring there, and then summer came, and then it was just, you could not sit outside without being attacked. It just kind of really was difficult in the kind of the more humid areas. So there's many, 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 many sentient beings around that don't have these lives, and they're not able to practice Dharma. And so, you know, Kopan Monastery is in a Buddhist country. Kathmandu has a population of about 1 million people. And in those courses at Kopan, there's only ever about 40 to 180 people in them. And they're pretty much all foreigners. So I just find it really interesting that this is only a very, very small amount of people actually have the mind that they want to go and practice a course like are available at Kopan. Now we finish the precious human rebirth. Is your head spinning yet? Now we're moving to death and impermanence. Take a breath. Death is definite. We all know that. Our time of death is uncertain. We all know that. We've all had friends who just walked out one day and never came home. And you hear about it, you see about it in the news. We never know when our karma to die is going to ripen. So we need to be careful. And the only thing of any value to us at the time of our death is the accumulation of virtue in our mind. Not our houses, not our relationships, not our things, not our money. The only thing that we're going to be taking with us to our next life is what is in that continuity of consciousness of ours, and it better be virtuous. That's all that's going to help us. Refuge in karma. So now we realize we're living in a fairly tenuous situation. We don't have much control. Potential for suffering is great. And potential for ripening seeds from past lives, also not knowing whenever they may ripen, a car accident, a tumor. So recognizing that all this suffering and how tenuous and uncertain our life is, whom can I turn to? It's like we've been doing in our Vajrasattva at night. We need a doctor. You know, we take refuge in our doctor when we're sick, don't we? So it's the same here. We need to take refuge in the Buddha, because he's got the methods that we can use, if we wish, to heal ourselves. So as we're doing our Vajrasattva practice at night, this is what we're taking refuge in Vajrasattva. We're using his methods. Karma means action. That's, I think, the English translation for karma, action. So karma is definite. So positive karma will bring positive results. Negative karma will bring negative results. There is no effect without a cause. And karma created by a virtuous mind, such as love, kindness, compassion, generosity, will only ever bring happiness and not ever bring suffering. And the timing is never certain. So you never know. Someone gives you a car. That could be the ripening of some generosity karma from, I don't know, many lifetimes ago. So you just never know when it's going to ripen. And the more virtue you create, it's a bit like the more money people have, they tend to make more money. It's a bit like virtue's the same. The more virtue you have, the more virtue you can create, because your kind of mind is happy and settled and you're just in this mode of creating virtue. It leads to happiness. You will never experience a karmic result of something you didn't plant the seed for. Actions done are not wasted. An action done will bring a result most definitely at some point when the causes and conditions ripen. So I just wanted to briefly look at karma increases. A great result comes from a small cause, because the energy of karma increases continuously unless an opponent force is applied, and this is what we're doing at night with the Vajrasattva. So for example, for a positive example is a flower seed can be the cause for hundreds and thousands of petals, right? So it just expands. Seeds expand. And so I think this is a lovely analogy for karma. So, but take heart, there is some way we can control this. So there has to be 4 things in place to complete an action of karma. So let's just look at in the context of stealing. So first of all, there has to be an object. So you have to identify something of value belonging to someone else, and you have correctly identified the object and the owner. And you must fully intend to steal. You don't just pick up something by mistake. Although Lama Zopa Rinpoche does define stealing as taking the ungiven. And Rinpoche himself is very careful. And the intention has to be driven by some delusion, such as either attachment, a grasping and wanting that object, or wanting to hurt someone. And then you have to do this action of stealing, and it can be performed either by yourself or by someone on your behalf, such as an accountant or a solicitor. And completion. The deed is done. You've actually got the money or the object, and you feel completely happy and satisfied, and you feel like, fantastic, I've got this thing, now it's mine. And they also said that if, for example, you suddenly felt bad and had regret and decided to return the object, the action would not be complete and you wouldn't collect the complete negative result or the complete karma or the complete ripening of this stealing karma because you haven't completed the action. So there is another proviso here, is if you borrow something from someone and you forget to return it, and it's of value to them, and you forget to return it, and then you start to think somehow, oh, this belongs to me, that becomes a complete action of stealing. So we have to be very careful. Library books. And you can do that same exercise with positive things as well. So you can say refraining from killing, so not mistaking the objects, and there's no delusion in the mind. And the act being, one is thinking that killing is improper and you want to refrain from it and you avoid killing. So you've created a virtuous seed there. So, we look at the 10 non-virtues in our Vajrasattva practice at night, actually, when we do the body, the speech, and the mind. So here they are. We're going to go through them here. There's 3 of body: killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. Sexual misconduct is defined by His Holiness and a lot of people these days as not having sexual relationships outside a committed relationship unless there is consent to do so. It's just also very harmful. It hurts people's, it breaks trust. Stealing can be taken the ungiven, as Rinpoche says, that's his definition. And killing, why? Because beings don't like it. Anyway, we talked about these last week in the precepts. There's 4 of speech. Lying. So when you lie, you create the cause for people to lie to you. And also you create the cause for people not to believe anything you say. So if you do have this experience where people don't believe anything you say, it could be because you've lied in the past. So you might want to think about purifying that. So anyway, we do purify this in our meditation. Divisive speech. It's speaking badly about other people behind their back and getting other people to agree with you. It's very, very harmful. I think it's the thing that we do the most, gossiping about our friends. Harsh speech, or swearing at people, or being sarcastic, being mean. It just hurts people's feelings. It makes them feel uncomfortable and unconfident. And just rabbiting on about nothing when no one wants to listen to you. Do you know people like that, They just kind of carry on, and you don't want to go see that person because, God, in case I get caught up in a conversation with them. There are people like that. And this idle chatter creates the cause for no one to listen to anything you're saying or to take you seriously. And we have these 3 of the mind. Attachment. And this is what we were talking about renunciation earlier. This is like this kind of grasping. It's oily, it's sticky, it's definitely not love. It's like kind of vampire, wanting stuff, wanting people, wanting things. Ill will. This is like a wish to harm, anger. And you'll recognize this in our meditation at night. And also we've done it in our 9-round breathing. And wrong view. So again, wrong view is not understanding or appreciating cause and effect and emptiness. So before, can't believe I got through all that. How's everyone doing? Okay, we have some minutes. I'm trying to escape. Oh no, I can't. I have to stop share. Sorry, here we are. There we go. Hi Lorraine, nice to see you. Phew. Does anyone have any questions? We have a little bit of time. Hi, Dominic. I didn't see you there. We've got about 5 minutes.
Hi, Venerable Katy. It's Lorraine.
Hi, Lorraine. How are you doing?
Doing
And Mary's raised her hand as well. Okay. So Lorraine, then Mary. Yeah.
so. I had a question. You mentioned the hungry ghosts and how we sometimes feel when they're around,
Mm,
and I definitely have experienced that. It's kind of creepy.
yeah.
Same time, I feel great compassion for them because I don't know. I feel like I've been there before, and it's hugely. I don't know. It just really tears my heart out. So, and you said something about what to do about when you feel that. Can you go over that again, please?
So I was talking about a little practice that we do at Rinpoche's house called the Sura practice, and you can look that up online and read about it. The problem with that is we can't really do it in the city because nowadays you're not allowed to light fires and people get freaked out if you start burning things. So,
Especially here.
yeah, right. And definitely not here in California either. But we do at Rinpoche's house because at Rinpoche's house is quite isolated from all the other neighbors. And it's just a little practice where you offer them some food, but you can actually do it in your garden. You can offer some food. And also, if you've ever done Guru Puja, there's that little section where you take out the excess offerings and you put them outside and offer it to the spirits so they don't get upset and jealous and come and harm you. But Lorraine, also one of the things that you can do is you can just recite Om Mani Padme Hum, and the fact that you already have this level of compassion for the spirits that you're sensing around you is kind of is like amazing because most people get freaked out. So we did have. I was having a conversation with some friends from our time at Seichen Ling in San Francisco. We're here the other night, and they were. I never actually saw them. I just felt them, but there were ghosts in that house, and there was everybody that was there had some experience with this ghost. And so then there was a whole conversation on Facebook about the ghosts in the house in San Francisco. But interestingly, the ghost never came into the Gompa. And Geshe-la said, "Oh no, ghosts won't come in there." So ghosts wouldn't come where there was holy objects, as according to Geshe-la. But yeah, I mean they're around. It's yeah. Is that helpful, Lorraine?
Yes, thank you very
Oh, there
much.
you go. Shayla's just put up a link to the practice in Lam Rim Wisdom Archive. Okay. Mary, did you have a question?
Oh, I just
Oh,
wanted to
good.
hear,
You put.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to hear you talk about the caves more, but if we run out of time, it could be next week. But I was fascinated about the caves you talked about.
Tilopa and Naropa's caves. I have been trying to find photographs of them because I wanted to show you where they were. And if you like, we can talk about them. I think we'll have a little bit more time next week. So if you like, I can talk a little bit about the caves. There's also, so many of these holy caves. Lama Zopa Rinpoche's cave up in Laudo is kind of magical. And on the outside of that cave, there are there's things, like a horse's hoof and an elephant's footprint and the shape of a horse. And when I first went to Laudo, I didn't notice anything. It was just a cave, a rock. And then one day I was doing retreat up there and I looked and I thought, God, there's shapes on there. And then I took a photo because I wasn't sure if what I was seeing was true. There's definitely a horse and it looks like an Amitabha Buddha. And first of all, I went to see Rinpoche's sister, and I said, "There's kind of shapes on the cave." She said, and then I didn't think she believed me, and I just thought, "Oh well, I'm just making it up with my mind." And then one day she came up and she said, "Look, see, there's an elephant, there's a horse." So she just keeps it very quiet. But there are some very interesting. I mean, I don't know. It's just very interesting when you go to these countries and you go up to these places. It's hard to, in our Western world, it's really hard to imagine that these things could possibly be real. But when you go up there and experience them, it's kind of interesting. It challenges the mind somewhat. It's like, how did those things appear? They weren't carved. So, and then there's also this special place in in Nepal where there's this Tara emanating from a rock. And again, you have to go and see it to believe it. Nobody carved that Tara. And then there's these places where Padmasambhava went, and there's a handprint in the cave. And again, that's not carved. It's just kind of like he put his hand there and it just melted in. So this is a person who had a very clear understanding of emptiness, was able to do that. And I know this sounds all a little bit outside the realm of what's believable, but there's some kind of extraordinary things that you just can't really explain very well. And this is why they say just keep focusing on the Lam Rim, step by step, gradual path, and then sometimes things will appear to your mind and your mind begins to expand. I don't know, that's all I can say. Oops, it's telling me we've got Vajras up in a minute. So, and we had, did that make sense, Mary? Okay. Pyong?
Thank you,
Hi.
Anita. Yes, hi. Thank you very much, Anita. I did ask a question. At the beginning, you were showing a book that you recommend. I didn't get that. Would you please so kind, Anita? Yes.
There's one book by Yangtze Rinpoche called Practicing the Path. Mary held that up. Then another book that I really like personally is by Geshe Acharya Thupten Lodin. You can only buy these books in hardback. They're quite expensive, but they're incredibly clear. And they're called The Path to Enlightenment. There's one called Path to Enlightenment, and the other is called Meditations on the Path to Enlightenment. And the Path to Enlightenment is over there outside my little studio, and it's an orange book, and this is a slightly smaller one. It's very, very clear. All those topics that we looked at today are in here, and he explains them so nicely. And it's just a matter of going over and over again. And then there's the Lam Rim year by that's got those teachings from, it's called Lam Rim Year, Making Life Meaningful Day by Day by Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So those books are, and the thing that I love about this particular book, the Making Life Meaningful Day by Day, is that it takes literally 3 minutes to recite each day, and you can start at the very beginning and take yourself the whole way through the Lam Rim, just very slowly in your own time. And it's very, very sweet, all these really beautiful little stories from Lama Zopa and Lama Yeshe. Kind of amazing. Okay, thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Anita. Yes.
Anybody else? Anybody else anything to say? Okay, I know it was a lot. Thank you for bearing with us. Next week, where are we going? I've got to go back to my screen share now. Let me see. I've got to use my slides that my friends made for me. Okay, where are we? Now we've gone through here. Sorry, wait, where are we? Thank you. And practices of renunciation bodhicitta. So next week it'll be a little bit more focused, and hopefully we can fit in a meditation at the end, and I will try and find a place to put these caves in there for Mary and for you all, because they're kind of interesting to hear about cave. And Mary, if I can't find Tilopa and Naropa's cave, a photograph of them, and it's probably because they're secret that we can't find photos of them, I will find photos of other caves that are equally interesting. And maybe I'll give you some photographs of my, from Laudo, from Rinpoche's cave. If that'll probably be the best I can do for everyone. Okay, so do we have any dedication prayers? If we don't, it doesn't matter. Just dedicate all the positive energy, all the merit you've created from concentrating, from focusing, from asking questions, from thinking your meditation, and just dedicate all that positive energy to all the people of your life and to yourself, to just hope that you can remain interested, that you still have the capacity to be able to practice whenever you wish. And then we'll just do His Holiness's prayer. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you're the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chen Reizig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Phalamsa Rinpoche, you who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjanath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers, honouring the three jewels, savour of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. Thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate it. I wanted to see you all one more time. There you are. Thank you for bearing with us. It was a lot today. I appreciate your concentration and your focus. Well done. Just say, good job. Yeah. Good job, everyone. Okay. Thank you. Lots of love. Thanks for hosting. And I guess I'll see some of you in about 20 minutes. Okay.
Thank you,
I'm gonna
Venerable.
have
Thank
a-
you, Venerable
Thank you very
Katy.
much, everyone.
Venerable